Hey everyone, and welcome to the York Galleria in York, Pennsylvania. If you never knew, this is my local mall, and I have putting this video off for months. But here today we will finally get to see the mall and tell the story of the 5 other malls in York. Before the York Galleria was even constructed, the land prior, specifically on the intersection of Mount Zion Road and Whiteford Road, once belonged to the Long family, who owned and operated a dairy bar called Avalon Farms. In 1960, Avalon Fairways Miniature Golf was constructed in 5 weeks. The name of the construction company was Fairways Miniature Golf. However, Fairways later became part of the Arnold Palmer construction and also did the construction in 1965 when the miniature golf course was remodeled and the driving range was built. In 1961, they built a dining room addition, the curb service roof, and installed the car call system during that summer. However, at some point, Avalon Farms closed and the site is currently home to a Rudders and a bank. Fast forward to 1987 when the York Galleria was in early construction phase, and by the end of 1989 the Galleria was getting ready to open. Officially, on November 9th, 1989, York Galleria held its grand opening. JCPenney, Sears, Boscov's, and the Bon-Ton would be present at this time. Developer George Zamias had already been credited with the opening of other malls throughout the state at this point. York Galleria is the prototype to the Johnstown Galleria in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. This is why most refer to them as being sister malls. Johnstown Galleria ended up opening in 1992. In 1999, Target, Kohl's, and Michaels opened next to the mall. Kohl's would open first on April 16, 1999, and Target on October 10, 1999. In 2011, the Galleria made it a rule that anyone under the age of 18 without an adult is not permitted into the mall Friday or Saturday evenings after 6 p.m. This embarked a downturn in visitors in that time, obviously. In 2012, a severe roach infestation took over the food court for about 3 days until it was cleaned up. Right now we are entering the food court at the York Galleria. This food court used to have a lot of neon in it, and unfortunately most of it is now turned off. And actually at one point all the food court tenants here used to have neon in their signs. Taco Bell, they had like a covering over theirs, but at one point most of the places in here had neon on their signs, and they had neon up above the tenants too, and around the food court area. Now there is some neon still turned on, and we'll get a few shots of that, but yeah, really it's not looking good in here. To our right was a McDonald's, which we'll actually get a glimpse of it before and after. But this food court, really the only thing that's good in here is the pizza place, which is actually really good pizza. If you're ever in the York area, you ever come to York Galleria, I highly recommend you grab a bite to eat there. The pizza is really good. In January 2015, it was announced that JCPenney would close at the Galleria as a part of a plan to close 39 underperforming locations. In 2016, however, H&M announced that it would occupy an area that was a walkway on the first floor at the center of the mall. The store opened on December 8, 2016. In 2016, it was also announced that Gold Gym would occupy about 35,000 square feet of the other half of the JCPenney lower level, using the exterior entrance as well. They opened in spring 2017. In 2018, Marshalls announced that they will occupy the upper half of the JCPenney on the east side of the mall, taking advantage of the upper level exterior entrance as well. The upper level of JCPenney at the center of the mall still remains vacant to this day. On April 19, 2018, it was announced that the Bon-Ton would shutter after it wasn't able to establish any new conditions to satisfy its established long-term debt. On April 26, 2018, it was announced that Sears would shutter as a part of a plan to close underperforming stores. Liquidation started on May 18th and the store closed by August. 2018 was not a good year for the mall. In February 2018, Springersbury Township officials announced that Penn National Gaming expressed interest in using the York Galleria area as a potential location for a casino. The township solicitor said Penn National Gaming was looking at the first floor of the Sears property. Penn National Gaming had a September 2018 deadline to apply to the control board to open a mini casino in York County, and confirmed that month that it had selected York Galleria's former Sears store as such a site, and filed an application with the Gaming Control Board on September 12, 2018. Hollywood Casino York opened on August 12, 2021. On April 29th, 2021, it was announced that Life Storage was going to inhabit the entirety of the former Bonton space. Life Storage would not last long, however, until they would change the name to Extra Space Storage. I still can't figure out why they did that. Actually, there were rumors that Belk at first was going to occupy the former Bonton, but obviously they did not. This information takes us to today, with the food court in shambles and the mall in a state of limbo. I do have hope for the mall because every time I seem to stop by, I see a new store coming soon. But the mall really needs to get the upper level of Sears and JCPenney filled before they can do anything. The east side of the mall is doing great with Boscov's and the center as well, but I can't say the same for the west side. Now why don't we exit the York Galleria and head over to the York Mall. One and a half miles away lies the York Mall. This footage was shot on a different day for an abandoned video, but I figured it would come in handy here. The York Mall was the first fully enclosed shopping mall in York County, which opened in the fall of 1968. When ground was broken on January 31st, 1967, this shopping hub was initially called the Lincoln Mall. However, the name was changed to the York Mall by the grand opening on October 3rd, 1968. Montgomery Ward, Hulsholl & Cone, and JCPenney anchored this mall. Hulsholl & Cone, what we're looking at right now, closed in 1975, shortly after Bonton moved in. However, Bonton and JCPenney both moved to the New York Galleria in 1989. Right now, we are looking at Hulsholl & Cone, like I just said, and Hulsholl & Cone became Burlington. Was most recently Burlington. You can look up there. That was the logo, and this building is untouched from the rest of the mall, except for the inside. But I really think this is pretty awesome that this building is still here. But unfortunately, since Burlington is now closed, who knows what company could go in here and redo the facade. So this building might not be here too longer with that facade. So it's only time will tell, but we have video now to show what this is and how it looked. But the inside, I'm pretty sure, well, it would have had to have been remodeled from the Hulsholl & Cone days. And with the York Mall, you'd have to walk through Hulsholl & Cone to get to the other side of the mall. And really, this mall was just, it was really cool. It looked really cool. So I wish I was able to visit it, but unfortunately, that was not the case. In 1990, the former JCPenney became a Walmart. The former Bon-Ton became a Bon-Ton Express concept, which was a discount store. Plus, Bon-Ton still had their corporate offices on the second floor, what we're looking at right now. The Express format did not last long and soon became a Burlington in the mid-90s. Montgomery Ward's closed between 1999 and 2000, and by 2001, the mall was in demolition process. Pretty much everything north of Burlington would be demolished during this time. And here's the corporate offices, which were in use until the company's closure, and are still abandoned to this day. So if you ever wondered where the corporate offices were for Bon-Ton, they're right here in York, because Bon-Ton was founded in York, if you didn't know that either. So yeah, right now I'm pointing at where the logo would have been on the corporate offices, telling you it was Bon-Ton corporate offices. We're going to get a look in here in some windows, and then we're going to head over to our next location. Another thing about this mall is that it hosted a plethora of mall fountains. They had the one in the middle, which that picture that I showed earlier, that picture is a picture that's been floating around the internet for a while, and I'm sure most people don't even know that that picture was taken at this mall. So pretty cool. I knew that for years, but I obviously put it in this video. But yeah, this mall hosted a plethora of fountains. And unfortunately for these malls, there's not a lot of pictures of them. So there's only like, maybe like 15 or 20 pictures floating around of the interior of this mall. Even exterior pictures are rare of this mall. But I'm sure I'm sure people may have some in like their personal like archives or photos or something. But they just didn't post them, you know. I'm sure there's pictures out there, but we don't know where they are. But at this point, we're going to be leaving the York Mall and heading over to our next location. Five miles west takes us to the North Mall, probably the most obscure and interesting of all the malls in York. This mall would have probably been my favorite. The North Mall was developed by Food Fair Properties Incorporated and held a grand opening in 1969, with a Bon-Ton on the upper level and a J.M. Fields and a Pantry Pride on the lower level. J.M. Fields opened prior to the mall on October 31st, 1963. About 1983, however, Burlington Coat Factory moved into the lower level of the now former J.M. Fields. Right now we're headed down to the lower level of the mall, and I'm wondering if this staircase is original or not. There is an original part up there that we'll revisit later, but I'm wondering if that staircase is original. Now there was a walkway, a spiral walkway, in about this part we're going to look in right now, about this area, which is pretty interesting. And I'm just wondering if that staircase is original, because I knew they had maybe like escalators or staircases to this one side of an ad that they made of the mall. So that's what I'm wondering. But this part in here, about this area, was where that spiral staircase used to be. And this area, I'm wondering if this is untouched, like they just gutted it out from the mall and this is what we have. Like, nothing ever came in here since the mall, because we have a couple vacant spaces down here in the lower level, where it's just gutted, and that wood paneling right there might be original as well. I don't know, because there's no close-up shots of this mall exterior. There is some exterior shots, but they're not the greatest. Well, we'll see a couple here in a bit. But this mall now is still not doing very good. It did get some more tenants recently, like the Interior's Home, but it's still not doing good up there. There's a lot of vacant areas. The area we looked up there at the staircase, there used to be a shoe fly which moved to a shopping center down the road. But yeah, there's not really... And the building up here was an LA Fitness, which just closed as well. Penn National there just closed as well recently. But LA Fitness closed like within a couple months, actually. And then down here, we're going to go to a place called, I believe it was called like Lifeway. It wasn't the Christian store, it was a athletic clothing store, which closed a couple of years ago now. But yep, this is the downstairs portion. We would have had JM Fields go out farther, so we're probably walking where JM Fields used to be. In 1982, Bon-Ton moved into the new West Manchester Mall, and shortly after, local department store Mailman's moved into the former space. At this time, after Mailman's moved in, the mall was renamed the North Mall Factory Outlet Center. About this time was when the mall went into a downhill turn. In 1992, Mailman's closed, and sometime around 1993 the mall closed and was demalled into an outdoor shopping center of what you see today. Walking back upstairs as we leave the North Mall and head out to our next location, but I'd like to point out the original portion, or original part I should say. I'm going to pan down to the floor here. Now notice how the floor is different from the concrete over there. You guessed it, this floor was in the mall, which is why someone commented that it was slippery, because it's meant to be indoors and not exposed to the outdoors, so it's slippery when it's wet. So a fun little fact, and it's still really cool that is still there from the mall, that little part of the floor. So we're going to leave North Mall right about now, and we're going to head over to our next location. Approximately 3 miles away takes to Delco Plaza, a thriving shopping center with a former interior portion, and should I say a whole different look than what it is today. To find out the story of Delco Plaza, we need to go back to the mid-70s when the mall was built. Anchors consisted of a Hills department store at the north end and a Grant City at the south end. However, Grant's would later be converted to a Kmart. The mall also housed a Pathmark grocery store as an outparcel and a 5-screen UA cinema, which was the largest theater in York for a long time. The cinema was located in the mall, and it also featured a Channel Home store as an outparcel as well, which would later become an Ollie's. After West Manchester Mall opened in the late 80s, Delco Plaza started to struggle. Pathmark would close in the late 80s, early 90s due to it being an underperforming location. Years passed before it would eventually become a Tractor Supply. UA Cinemas was a big loss for the mall after they closed. A discount theater would take its place. This decreased mall traffic since this was the main thing that would bring people into the mall. Many stores and restaurants would close due to this. It's also worth noting that behind the mall there was a roller skating rink that was called Rollerway, which is now approximately where Lowe's is. By 1996, there were pretty much no retail stores left between the anchor department stores. The mall had basically turned into a service center rather than a retail mall, which may be why they changed the name of the mall to Delco Center. In 1998, Ames had purchased Hills, making the location turn to an Ames, which only lasted until 2002, until they went defunct. In 2003, Kmart would close along with 326 locations nationwide, and in 2005 the mall was closed and would be demolished. 1 mile away to the north lies the site of the former West Manchester Mall. West Manchester was the other large mall in York. This mall was another Crown American gem, and I wish it was still around today. The mall opened in 1981 with a GB, Bon-Ton, and a Hess's as anchors. It's also worth noting that restaurants like Orange Julius, McDonald's, Friendly's, and Chick-fil-A were also tenants in the mall. In 1992, GB became a value city, and in 1995, a small new wing was added to the mall, which would house Hex, who would later become Macy's. Hess's would close in 1993, which would become a Walmart that same year. In 2003, Walmart would expand into a supercenter, and at this time, they would close off their mall entrance, which would obviously lead to a downturn in mall traffic. And this is where the downturn in the home mall really took place and started here. Value City closed in 2008 and would become a Kohl's in 2010, unlike many stores which would become a Burlington in their next life. In 2011, a small tornado struck the mall, which would shatter a skylight and cause minor damages. In 2011, Bon-Ton announced that it would close their store by January. And right now we are in the Burlington Coat Factory space, and we're going to point out a couple things. Now you see up there, that's a mall skylight that is still remains. You see, when they did this mall, they demolished part of it and then they left part of it up. They left the majority of it up. They just demolished and gutted the inside. But these skylights are still here. Now these are the only two remaining skylights that you can see from the store, and they're in Burlington here. And then we're gonna pan around to it very soon. There's a round skylight, which is where the Kohl's court would have been. You'd walk right into Kohl's then. Right over here. But yeah, it's just amazing that these are still in here, and there was some in Hobby Lobby, where the Hobby Lobby is in the walkways, but obviously they're not there anymore, or they would have been on this video. But you can still see where they would have been, but they're just all covered up now. In September 2012, the Texas-based M&R investors purchased the West Manchester Mall for approximately $17.5 million. The group planned a $47 million renovation, which would keep the existing anchor stores and demolish the rest of the mall to create a new outdoor shopping center called the West Manchester Town Center. A demolition permit was filed, and West Manchester Mall closed permanently in 2014 to prepare for the redevelopment. Towards the end of the mall's life, things were rather strange throughout the mall, and it seemed that the owners did not care about the property since the mall was about to be demolished anyways. For example, walls started to be built around the mall, and it really felt like you were walking through a maze. Also, from 2013 to 2014, right before the mall's closure, an RC racetrack was built in the former Dev Shop, which is pretty cool. And here's a picture where it was, where the back entrance would have been. I would like to thank everyone for watching my video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. A lot of time and work went into this video. So, if you did enjoy, I would like to ask you to do 3 things. Like, comment, and subscribe for more content just like this. Actually, you know what? Out of all the malls we discussed in the video, comment which one was your favorite. Anyway, I'd like to wish everyone a good day, and as always, I will see everyone in the next video.